North Dakota now has the second highest rate of COVID-19 cases per capita in the whole country. Straight ahead on Valley News Live at 10, we'll show you what you can expect if you get Omicron. Plus,
a West Fargo boy is back home after spending 4 months in the hospital after a horrific crash. We were the only ones at his emotional homecoming.
and a contentious gender inclusion policy as local officials weighing in. Valley News Live at 10 starts right now.
This is Valley News Live at 10.
Welcome to Valley News Live at 10. I'm Justin Betty.
And I'm Stacy Van Dyke. Not a lot going on in the Skycam behind us, but Fargo and Moorhead already among dozens of schools canceled tomorrow. West Fargo doing virtual learning, and we're likely to see many more cancellations roll in throughout the show.
Yes, because more snow is on the way, already affecting people not too far west of here. Touch.
Justin and Stacy, thanks so much. Good evening, everyone. We're going to start with some new information on our first alert weather day for Friday. Snow, as we mentioned, will get started tonight. We're already seeing in the road report here across North Dakota, snow-covered roads in areas you see in purple. That's from Minot to Mohall out toward the Bottineau Hills area is where you see the toughest road conditions right now, and they'll continue to get tough. The red areas, you've seen this crawling across the bottom of your screen throughout the night from the Devil's Lake Basin through Grand Forks, Jamestown, Valley City, Fargo, name it, down into the southeast portion of the viewing area for Lisbon, for Gwinner, and all the way to the Sisseton Hills, western portions of Otter Tail County, including Pelican Rapids, Fergus Falls, down towards Wheaton. That's where the snow band is expected to set up, and look at this, where you see the dark blues, that's exactly where it's starting to take hold. And in fact, we have that heavy band just off to the east and north of Minot making its way in. Snow beginning in the Devil's Lake Basin and the James River Valley starting to see some. Now the light blues here not as heavy, but where we see these little dark blue pockets is starting to get those big flakes that'll accumulate fairly quickly. Snow is going to last through the overnight. There will be morning impacts. Morning drive, the areas you see shaded in dark blue here, James River Valley, Devil's Lake Basin, we will already have very tricky travel conditions. And by the afternoon drive home, that extends all the way down the I-94 corridor through St. Cloud with the heaviest snow right here where you see the dark blues. That could total up to, look at this, 4 to 8 inches here in the FM area, plus in pockets, 5 to 10 here in the dark area from Devil's Lake through southeast North Dakota with asterisks. Those are bad. Isolated 1 foot plus totals. Hour by hour forecast coming up here in a minute. Make sure you have that Valley News Live weather app.
The shovels and the snow plows ready. It's a good idea to keep that VNL weather app handy as well for forecasts right at your fingertips. You can download and use it for free. Just search VNL weather in the App Store.
New for you tonight at 10, Dr. Anthony Fauci now says it's very likely we're all going to catch Omicron at some point.
But what's the difference between Omicron and Delta and the first strains of COVID we saw? Valley News Team's Alex Larson spoke to local health professional about that new variant today.
Most of the cases in the community are Omicron, so we are presuming every new patient that comes in at this point in time is Omicron.
Both Delta and Omicron are COVID, but the difference between them is just a few modifications of the spike protein on the virus. Dr. Nagpal says that's led to a big difference in transmissibility.
Instead of one person affecting 4 other people, 5 other people, or 6 other people, what we are seeing is one person is affecting 10 more people or 12 more people.
Some are experiencing all of the symptoms, which can be different than Delta's.
I had 102.4 fever. I had body aches, headache, stuffy nose, sneezing, congestion, coughing, just about any symptom you could think of.
Others don't have it as bad.
I had a persistent cough. I felt kind of achy, and that's about it.
Spear is fully vaccinated. She's also received infusions, but says this round is far worse than when she first had COVID in 2020.
I just felt like I had a little cold. I was actually at work, and I made a sandwich, and I put some mustard on it, and I'm like, I don't taste the mustard.
Southard is also fully vaccinated, but hasn't had COVID before.
Mostly just extremely tired.
Dr. Nagpal says the vaccine does not protect as well against Omicron, but
The vaccine still offers significant protection against complications, including hospitalization, respiratory failure or death.
And the end is not in sight.
There is so much COVID around right now, and basically every state, every city, every town, in every country on the planet is affected. So it's not possible to eliminate it anymore.
New mutations could make future strains escape immunity and be even more severe and transmissible.
If any of that happens, it will be labeled as a variant of high clinical significance. Fortunately, we have not had that yet, and I hope that we don't get to see it.
Alex Larson, Valley News Live.
Moorhead police are still putting the pieces together on what led up to a shooting inside an apartment complex. Police say one shot rang out just before 9 this morning in the 1800 block of 30th Avenue South. No one was hurt, but the incident has neighbors wanting to move somewhere safer.
I didn't realize that this was going on in my neighborhood. I didn't really do a lot of checking before I moved in here a couple years ago, but no, I don't feel safe and I don't know what's going on.
Several people were taken in for questioning, but so far no arrests have been made.
3 people have been arrested following an armed robbery at the Travel Mart in Moorhead this afternoon. Police have identified the suspects as Emmanuel Reynosa, Kyla Belgard, and Isaac Granados. The victim tells police he was in his car when the robber got in, showed his gun, and ordered him out. The suspect then drove off in his own car, and police found him and detained 3 of the 4 that were with him. No one was hurt. Tonight, the Grand Forks mayor is adding his voice to a debate over a new gender inclusion policy being proposed at the University of North Dakota.
Meanwhile, the university president is calling for a news conference tomorrow to address the recent criticism. Valley News Team's Kaylee Chella joins us now live in studio with those details. Kaylee.
That's right, Stacey, Justin. The proposal shows that people have very different ideas about what it means to be inclusive. Now, UND has a big section of its website devoted to identity and different resources. Their website shows a section for sexuality and race, disabilities, the list goes on. But this latest policy proposal, which is still in draft form, is causing some controversy. Here's what it would do. It would require the use of a transgender person's preferred pronouns, make the intentional misgendering of a person an act of discrimination, and encourage the use of facilities that align with a person's gender identity. President Andy Armacost explained the policy in response to some criticism in a Zoom town hall last night.
The draft policy on gender inclusion was not a case of a campus going rogue. In fact, we began drafting this gender inclusion policy to implement federal law, Supreme Court rulings, State Department of Labor and Human Rights policy, and the State Board of Higher Education policy. Our draft policy is intended to protect transgender members from harassment and discrimination, consistent with those federal laws and state policies.
Now, Grand Forks Mayor Brandon Buczynski, who's a UND alum, responded to the proposal, writing, quote, "We are a friendly and inclusive population that shares common values with our brethren from many religions." He continued, "This proposal by our beloved university spits in the face of everything we believe in. Compelling speech and forcing an ideology on our students, our children, and our community is abhorrent," end quote. In a letter to parents, leaders of the North Dakota Catholic Conference used a common anti-trans scare tactic. They wrote that the gender inclusion proposal would lead to a woman having to room with someone who they describe as biologically male, referring to a trans woman assigned male at birth, which they see as a problem. Supporters of the proposal point out the alternative would be having a person who looks, sounds, and identifies as a woman rooming with a man, which they see as a problem. And as Stacey mentioned, UND will hold a news conference tomorrow to respond. We'll bring you those details online and on air. For now, Justin, Stacey, back to you.
All right, thanks so much, Kaylee. Now, tomorrow morning, a gathering will be held to remember 7 members of the Moorhead community who died from carbon monoxide poisoning. The funerals for the Pinto Hernandez family are happening at Lutheran Church of the Good Shepherd in South Moorhead at 11 a.m. Valley News Live will be there, and we'll bring you coverage on air and online. Now to a Valley News Live exclusive. A 13-year-old West Fargo boy is home from the Mayo Clinic for the first time in 4 months. He was hit by a car while riding his bike in September.
Tonight, family and friends braved the cold with a surprise, handmade signs and showing their support for their buddy, their family member. Valley News Live, the only news station at Taryn's emotional homecoming. Aaron Walling gives us a look.
After months away from home, Taryn Klein has returned. The young man was injured in a horrific crash back in September last year.
We have been waiting for this for 110 days. We are so happy that we can all be together as a family, and we're so happy right now to be home all together under one roof. We're really excited about it.
The community support, the GoFundMe that reached over $50,000, and the countless hours helping the family out. Those gestures touch home for Taryn's parents.
It's amazing having that level of support from the community, and we're forever grateful for it.
Taryn had numerous injuries from the crash, which included a broken femur, 3 fractures in his lower jaw, 2 fractures in his eye sockets, a dislocated toe, road rash, and a part of his skull had to be removed to help the swelling of his brain. The young man had many surgeries, and now he returns to the place he calls home for the first time in 110 days. Taryn has 3 siblings that missed him dearly: Eleanor, Mason, and Daniel. They express what it means to have their brother back under the same roof.
It's really fun to have my big brother who always bees by my side, always helps a lot. And he's a great brother. I'm so happy to see him again.
So yeah, it's great to have him back home with us.
Now I don't have to go to sleep knowing that they're in some city like 3,000 miles away.
While there are still many steps ahead on the road to recovery, today the family can celebrate Taryn's return.
Team Taryn! Team Taryn! Team Taryn!
In West Fargo, Aaron Walling, Valley News Live.
Oh, that is so good to see. Still ahead on Valley News Live at 10. See how former Minnesota Vikings stopped an attempted carjacking.
And the radar shows snow, some of it moderate to heavy, and north central North Dakota is spreading in our direction. Take a look at what it looks like in Rugby. There's pillow drifts in the road, snow starting to fly. The wind hasn't picked up yet, but it will. Friday, first alert weather day. Impacts by your morning commute and afternoon commute. Details next.